Welcome to Startup Brainframe, where we explore cross-domain synthesis for startups who want to build the future.
It is great to be here. We're doing a deep dive on the HBO cult classic, Silicon Valley.
If you look past the satire, past all the middle-out jokes, the show is actually a masterclass. It's about that friction between a pure technical vision and the hard reality of venture capital.
It really is. I mean, you strip away the punchlines, and what's left is this perfect simulation of founder psychology under, well, just extreme pressure.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to break down the entire Pied Piper journey.
Right, from the breakthrough algorithm to the boardroom backstabbing. And we're going to pull out some serious lessons on how a founder's brain actually works or breaks under all that stress.
We're treating the characters like real-life case studies, and we have to start with the man himself, Richard Hendricks, specifically the sheer physical toll of it all.
The burnout, a classic place to start.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Richard is just spiraling. He's been on these sleepless code sprints, trying to get the platform ready. He's not sleeping. He's shaking.
He's a mess.
A total mess. He finally goes to see a doctor, Dr. Crawford, because he's having night sweats and, well, other issues.
And Dr. Crawford gives him this just unbelievable diagnosis.
He drops this bomb. He tells Richard that, based on his vitals, he has aged 40 years in the last 7 weeks.
Let that sink in. 40 years of wear and tear in less than 2 months.
And it gets worse. He says, biologically, a 58-year-old meth head is younger than him.
What a thing to hear from your doctor.
But this is the comedy gold moment, and it's so dark. Dr. Crawford looks at Richard, this complete wreck, and gives him super specific instructions on how to shoot himself in the head to make sure he doesn't survive.
So he doesn't end up a vegetable.
And then, without even taking a breath, he pitches his own startup device to Richard.
It's just perfect. It's hilarious, but it captures that relentless transactional thing about the Valley. But let's look at what's really happening to Richard's brain here. This is a textbook example of allostatic load.
Allostatic load. Okay, unpack that. It sounds like something that would happen to a bridge right before it collapses.
That is a perfect metaphor, actually. Your body is the bridge. Normal stress, that's like rush hour traffic, the bridge can handle it. But allostatic load is when you have bumper-to-bumper trucks on that bridge for weeks on end.
The bridge never gets a break.
Exactly. The structure starts to warp. Richard's cortisol levels, his stress hormones are constantly elevated. His fight-or-flight system is just stuck in the on position.
So it's like redlining a car engine and just leaving it there.
Precisely. And the part of the brain that pays the price for that is the prefrontal cortex. That's your CEO. It handles working memory, impulse control, complex decisions.
Wait, so the very skills you need most to run a company are the first to go?
They are. That's the brutal irony. All that cortisol impairs those functions.
So when founders feel like they're getting stupider, the more tired they get, they're not just imagining it.
No, in a functional sense, they really are. Now, to be clear, this isn't permanent brain damage. It's temporary functional impairment. But it makes you reactive, not strategic. You can't think your way out of the problem because the machinery you think with is offline.
That's terrifying. You're trying to save your company with a downgraded processor.
So the big founder tip here is that those physiological symptoms, the night sweats, the shaking, they are early warnings. They're not badges of honor. You cannot outcode a degrading brain. You have to check your lifestyle because you can't destroy the engine and still expect to win the race.
I love that. You have to service the engine. Okay, speaking of wrecking things, let's go to that party scene.
The celebration that becomes a disaster.
The Pied Piper crew is celebrating, they finally have a win, and then Richard gets the call.
The call every founder dreads.
The board met, they voted, he's out. Ousted as CEO of his own company.
And you see it on his face. He doesn't just look disappointed. He looks like he's been physically hit.
It's so visceral. Why is that reaction so extreme? I mean, it's just a job title, right?
Well, to an outsider, maybe. But for a founder like Richard, this is a neurological crisis. It's something we call identity death.
Identity death, that sounds final.
It feels that way to the brain. See, Richard's self-concept, his idea of who he is completely fused with being the CEO of Pied Piper. When that's taken away, his brain doesn't just register a career setback. It registers it as a threat to his very existence.
So getting fired actually feels like a physical attack to the brain.
It does. Brain imaging shows that threats to our social standing activate the exact same circuits that process physical pain. It's a collapse of his future story. He literally doesn't know who he is anymore.
Which explains so much. So the tip here is painful but obvious.
Choose your investors very, very carefully. You have to structure your board so you don't face that dread of being fired from your own creation. It's a trauma that's incredibly hard to recover from.
And that leads us right into his replacement, Action Jack.
Ugh, Jack Barker, the so-called adult in the room.
He's the total opposite of Richard. He doesn't care about the vision. He just wants to sell a server box. And there's that one scene where Dr. Crawford sees Richard being bossed around and so...
Oh, I remember this. I need to check your testicles now. Just want to make sure they're still there.
It's crude, but it nails a really critical point. The loss of agency. Richard has been neutered in his own company.
And the brain hates that. A perceived loss of autonomy is an absolute killer for intrinsic motivation. Your brain basically shifts gears from creativity and innovation into avoidance.
Avoidance? You mean like just trying not to mess up?
Exactly. You become a rule follower. You're not trying to change the world anymore. You're just trying not to get yelled at by Action Jack. Your focus shifts to compliance and error avoidance.
So the big takeaway here is that efficiency is not a substitute for agency.
Right. Stripping a team of autonomy might look productive in the short term, but you are killing the very innovative spirit that creates long-term value.
Okay, let's shift to the dark side of the valley. The sharks. The brain rape scene.
A very colorful and unfortunately accurate term.
Richard and Ehrlich are meeting VCs who keep asking for super deep technical details.
Right. They say things like, show me how you did that.
And the guys fall for it. They start explaining everything to prove they're smart, but the VCs are just stealing their intellectual property. And it comes down to a difference between cognitive empathy and affective empathy. I thought empathy was just caring about people.
That's effective empathy, feeling what others feel. But cognitive empathy is different. It's just the ability to figure out what someone else is thinking or intending. It's pure data processing.
So you can understand someone perfectly without caring about them at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have very high cognitive empathy, knowing exactly what buttons to push to manipulate someone, and have zero effective empathy. That's how a predator works.
So these VCs are using cognitive empathy to get the tech without any guilt?
Precisely. They know Richard won't spill the secrets.
Chilling. So the tip is that discernment is a survival skill. You have to learn to distinguish genuine curiosity from, well, a predatory attack.
If they're insulting you while asking for the secret sauce, run.
Run fast. Okay, now for the middle out breakthrough.
The big pivot.
The team is totally defeated. They think they've lost. So they stop trying to fix the algorithm and start doing these incredibly explicit calculations about, let's just say, personal efficiency.
We'll leave the details of the math to the viewers, yes.
But right in the middle of this filthy joke, Richard has a breakthrough. He sees the math in a new way, and boom, middle-out compression is born.
This is a perfect illustration of what's called an incubation period.
So stopping work actually helped him. That feels so counterintuitive to the whole hustle culture thing.
It is, but it's exactly how the brain solves hard problems. Creative insight often happens when your conscious attention is disengaged. When he stopped forcing it and let his brain play, he activated these other brain networks, like the default mode network.
Which lets ideas connect in new ways.
Exactly. He was too zoomed in before. The joke let him zoom out.
So the lesson is, sometimes you have to pivot your focus. The breakthrough happens when you stop staring right at the problem.
Take a walk, take a shower, or calculate some obscene math with your friends.
Whatever works. Okay, we have to talk about Russ Hanneman, the 3 Commas Club.
The man who put radio on the internet.
There's that scene where he finds out he's lost his billionaire status. He drops to, what, $986 million?
A true tragedy.
And he has a full-on mental breakdown. He is sobbing, which sounds insane. Why?
Because for Russ's brain, it's not about the money. It's about safety and status. Evolutionarily, our brains are constantly monitoring our rank in the tribe. For Russ, billionaire is the status marker that means he's safe. He's the alpha.
So dropping below that feels like a real threat.
A mortal threat. His amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is firing as if he's about to be exiled and left to die. It's not logical. It's biological.
So the tip for founders is simple. Do not tie your self-worth to a financial metric.
If you do, your amygdala will keep you in a state of constant fear. You'll never actually feel rich.
Speaking of vanity, let's touch on Ehrlich Bachman and that ridiculous Alcatraz party.
Oh, Ehrlich. He spends all of his friends' money to throw this massive party just to look cool and gain social validation.
Why do smart people do that? Make such obviously bad financial decisions just for clout.
The brain's reward system goes into overdrive at the prospect of social recognition. For someone like Ehrlich, The anticipated status, gain looking like a big shot, creates a bias where he massively overvalues that symbolic payoff. The lesson is just so clear. Ego is a blindfold. Making decisions to look successful stops you from making the decisions needed to be successful.
Let's stick with the dark side for a minute. That disrupted fatherhood scene with Russ.
Oh, that one is just painful to watch.
Right. His kid, Aspen, comes in, and instead of talking to him, Russ uses a robotic voice to tell him to go to bed.
Go to bed, Aspen.
And then he brags that he has disrupted fatherhood so he can stay the friend.
It's
So cringy.
He's automating a relationship.
So beware the disruption trap.
Absolutely. Not every problem needs code. Trust, care, presence, you can't automate those things. Your kids don't want a nap, they want you.
One last dynamic before we wrap up. Guilfoyle and Dinesh.
Constantly at each other's throats.
Is that kind of competition good for a team? Iron sharpens iron and all that?
Not that kind. That's a zero-sum competition. I only win if you lose. When that happens, your best minds shift their cognitive resources from building the product to just monitoring their rank and defending their egos.
So they're burning brain power on the rivalry instead of the company.
Exactly. So founders have to distinguish between managed competition that drives innovation and unmanaged toxic competition that just creates cultural debt.
Okay, so let's recap. If we had to boil this all down, what are the 3 big lessons from the Pied Piper journey?
I'd say lesson 1 is that your health, mental, physical, emotional is the company's most critical asset. If the founder's biological machinery is degrading, the company will too.
Don't be Richard at the doctor's office. Got it. Lesson 2.
Who you take money from matters. The wrong investors can lead to identity death or IP theft. It's about the partnership, not just the check.
And lesson 3.
Being fired from your own company is a catastrophic identity crisis. If your self-concept is too tied to the venture, the volatility will destroy you.
Powerful. Okay, let's leave our listeners with something actionable. We saw so many characters like Ehrlich and Russ choose optics over substance.
All the time. So here is the challenge for you listening. Find one thing in your company that exists mainly to look impressive. Maybe it's a fancy office you can't really afford, or a big-name advisor who doesn't actually do anything.
The vanity metric, the thing that feeds the ego, not the bottom line.
Exactly, and then remove it. Kill it. And take those resources, that time, money, or energy, and put them into something that directly improves your product or your distribution. Swap the optics for substance.
Great advice. Cut the fluff, build the future. Well, that's all for our deep dive into the world of Pied Piper. Hopefully, your startup journey has slightly fewer lawsuits.
And less vomiting. It was fun revisiting the chaos.
Thanks for your time investment into our show. See you in the next episode.